In this video, we'll talk about charts. Charts are visual methods of displaying data. We can have several different types of charts. The first type of charts you will learn about is scatter charts. These are graphical representation of the relationship between two quantitative variables. Scatter plots or scatter charts are very useful for representing if two variables are related to each other or not. If they are, what is the strength of the relationship? A lot of times people will have a trend line on the scatter chart, and that provides an approximation of the relationship between the variables. So let's look at a scatter chart. So this is how a scatter chart looks like. We can also have a line chart. The line chart connects the points in the chart. And line charts are very useful for time series data collected over a period of time. For example, maybe months, hours, days, years. A lot of times you will see line chart for weather data or stock market data. So going back to this example, this one shows scatter chart for monthly sales data, wherein we have the months here and we have the sales on the y-axis or the vertical axis, and we have just plotted the data. If you connect these dots, we will have a line chart. And since we have a time dimension here, or we can see how these sales are varying over time, line charts are more useful for trend analysis. Then we have the bar charts. Bar charts use horizontal bars to display magnitude of the quantitative variable. Instead of horizontal bar, if we use a vertical bar, then we call it column chart. So bar and column charts are very helpful in making comparisons between categorical variables. And if you have multiple categories, if you place them as bar chart or column charts, just by looking at the height or length of the bars, we can visually do those comparisons very quickly. Then we have pie charts, which are common form of chart used to compare categorical data. However, I highly recommend avoiding pie charts and using a bar chart or column chart instead, because our eyes are better trained to compare lengths or height in comparison to comparing angles, which we have to do with a pie chart. Also, in case of pie chart, if you have too many categories, it's very hard to make the comparison of which category or which slice of the pie is bigger than the other. Here's an example of a very simple bar chart for accounts managed. Here's the same information represented as a pie chart. You can see for yourself, if somebody asks the question, which of these has the highest number of accounts are managed, you will see Gentry quickly. Then if somebody asks you between Davis and Edwards, which one is bigger, which one is smaller, it's easy to answer. Let's say I want to compare Williams versus Edwards. Another way you can do is, it's very easy to sort a bar chart by values, and that will give you a better visual comparison. Now try answering the same questions with this pie chart. How easy or difficult do you find answering the same questions? If you had to compare this value here for Jones versus this value here for Lopez, it will be very difficult. Plus, if there are multiple categories, you may have to come up with multiple colors which are not closely related to each other, like in this case. So then again, the question comes, which chart or graph should you use, or which chart of graph should you use when? So that depends on what would you like to show in your chart or graph. Now here's a little guide to help you. Our goal is comparison. Then you come on this side. If the comparison is over time, then you're going to ask the question, do you have few periods or do you have many periods? If you have few periods, then maybe multi-line chart will help. So multiple lines on one line chart. Or you can also have, if you have fewer categories, you can even go for column chart or stacked column chart, or any variation that suits you. If you have multiple periods, then you have to think about, is your data cyclic in nature or is your data non-cyclic in nature? If your data is cyclic in nature, then something like this would be more suitable. If your data is non-cyclic, then maybe a line chart will help you. Now, if you're comparing, but not over time, but among different items, then you have to ask yourself, if your data has one variable per item, then if you have many categories, then having multiple charts will help you like this. If you have multiple items, then you can have again multiple charts, multiple bar charts maybe. If you have fewer items, then maybe you can have one chart where you have stacked column kind of layout. If you have two variables per item, then maybe this layout is more useful. Then again, for showing relationships, you can have scatter plot, and this is an example of showing two variable versus three variables. So depending on your need, you can find the charts or graphs which are more useful to solve the purpose. Here's an example of an executive dashboard. This one has several tabs. Executive is one, and then you have one tab for sales, people, one tab for support. And usually executives need more higher level of information, and they should be able to look at what is going on in the organization at one go. So here you will quickly see that there is a place where you can specify the date ranges, and all the charts change accordingly for that date range. You can also see that there is an option to hover over some of these icons, and once you do, you will see more additional details available to you. And you see the sales, the support, the margin, expense, all of that is represented together in one view for the executives. Usually these dashboards also have the ability to slice and dice data, or look at multiple views of it, or look at some aggregations. So depending on the performance dashboard, the fundamental challenge of the dashboard design is to display all the required information on one single screen clearly and without distraction, in a manner that can be assimilated quickly. So one quick thing that you don't want to miss out here is you should have all the required information but nothing extra. That way you will avoid any possible distraction. You're going to have three layers of information for a performance dashboard. One is monitoring, one is analysis, and one is management. What are some of the things that you should look for while designing a dashboard? The first thing is the use of visual components to highlight data and exceptions that require action. So if there is any important piece of information that you want your users to see, use highlights for those so that the user's attention immediately goes to that. And the next thing is that the dashboard should be transparent to the user. It means when they look at a dashboard, they should not need much training, and the dashboard should be extremely easy to use, so the users can focus more on the information that is displayed rather than the technical aspects. When making a dashboard, you should combine data from a variety of systems into one single, summarized, unified view of the business. So it should all be presented in one single view. Another thing we should focus on is to enable drill down or drill through functionality to underlying data sources and reports. Imagine your executive is looking at a dashboard and they find something that's of interest to them, or let's say they see why is there a sales dip in a certain month, or why is the sales going down in a certain month. They should be able to immediately drill down into more detail level data and find out what's going on. The dashboard should also present a dynamic real world view with timely data. So try to present as close to real time data as is available. And dashboard should not require much coding to implement, deploy, and maintain. Here's some more useful information for designing good dashboards. That's all.